Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wilcox, did you or anyone in your organization communicate with the ATF or the Biden administration about these issues we are discussing today prior to the notice of proposed rulemaking?
We submitted formal petitions for rulemaking through the appropriate channels, sir.
Before the notice of proposed rulemaking?
That's correct.
So you were in communication with the Biden administration wanting to make these changes?
We filed formal petitions for rulemaking through the appropriate channels.
Who'd you talk to?
It was a written submission, sir.
Did you speak to anyone personally?
I didn't.
Did anyone in your organization talk to anyone?
I have to check, but I believe we submitted the written submission as a formal submission.
People in your organization may have talked to folks at the ATF prior to the notice of proposed rulemaking?
Not that I'm aware.
Did anyone in your organization talk to Mr. Dettelbach before the notice of proposed rulemaking?
I don't believe Mr. Dettelbach had
You came in afterward.
nominated.
Have anyone talked to Mr. Dettelbach about this personally?
Of course, we've been in communication with the ATF in this administration and in prior administrations.
Talking to the director? You've talked to the director?
I mean, we work with ATF across administrations.
Have you talked to the director? It's a simple question.
Yeah, I've communicated with the director.
You've talked to Mr. Dettelbach?
Of course.
Yeah, and well, I find that interesting. I just know, as we're speaking upstairs, the president of the National School Board Association is sitting for a transcribed interview because the same thing happened there. National School Boards Association talked with the Biden White House, the Biden Justice Department, the Biden Department of Education, concocted this letter that set in motion this whole attack on parents showing up at school boards. And it looks to me like we have a similar operation going on here, where you guys worked with the ATF to change something that had been the law for 10 years to go after law-abiding Second Amendment Americans. Second Amendment supporting Americans. Mr. Bosco, you invented this stabilizing brace, is that right?
That's correct.
And you invented it for a Marine buddy, a friend of yours who served our country and was injured?
That's correct.
And you were told 10 years ago that the stabilizing brace does not convert a pistol into a short-barreled rifle, is that right?
That is correct.
I got the letter right here from the ATF, November 26, 2012, right? And then 7 weeks ago, a 180-degree change, right? 180-degree change, just the opposite. They now say it is just the opposite of what they told you 10 years ago.
That's
Again, I know others have talked about this. I think it's so clear. 180-degree change. So in 10 years and 2 months, the rule was one way, and you developed a business based on the rule that they told you. Your government told you this was fine, and now they've changed it.
That's correct.
When did the bill pass that changed the law?
There was no bill.
No bill. That's the fundamental issue, right? No bill. Mr. Dettelbach, the new director, he never ran for Congress. I don't think he was ever. I don't remember a bill going through Mr. Nadler's committee last Congress that changed the law. I would have known because I'm on that committee, the Judiciary Committee, which has jurisdiction over this stuff. I would have known. I don't remember a bill passing the full Congress. I don't remember a bill in the Senate Judiciary Committee passing or going through the Senate. And I certainly don't remember a bill going to President Biden's desk and he signing the legislation that changed the rule. But this could potentially impact millions of Americans, law-abiding, Second Amendment-supporting Americans. Is that right, Mr. Bosco?
That's absolutely correct.
How many products have you sold, just your company alone, to Americans? How many stabilizing braces have you sold?
Many millions. I can say that from 2020 to today, which are the years that the ATF didn't concern itself with when it did its impact study, we sold, our company alone, 2.3 million braces.
So while they were doing their study, they didn't count the number of braces that were being sold?
They didn't count in their impact study.
That's probably because Mr. Wilcox's organization told them not to count it, right?
I don't want to.
Well, they were talking to him all the time, it sounds like, putting this all together, going after people who support the Second Amendment. How many Americans do you think it's total? So I've heard estimates as many as 40 million Americans could be impacted by this?
Correct. Congressional Research Services has said anywhere between 10 and 40 million Americans own stabilizing braces.
Unless you remove the brace, lengthen the barrel, turn in or destroy your firearm or register your gun with this government that you know you can trust because Mr. Wilcox has been working with them, you know you can trust. Unless you do those 4 things, what happens? What are you?
A felon.
A felon. A felon for something 10 years ago they said was just fine, that you built a business on, and the business started because you wanted to help a man who put the uniform of his country on his back and served our country and was injured, and now they're going to put you out of business and make people felons. But don't worry, Everytown USA, Mr. Wilcox has been working with our government to implement this to target Second Amendment people, Americans who support the Second Amendment. Such a deal. Such a deal. That's why we need legislation to say this rule does We need to pass that. That's what we do need to pass into law now based on what has happened with this organization. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Ms. Luna for 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I just wanted to start out by saying that probably not just on this committee, but in the entire House of Representatives, I am the only member of Congress that has both survived an armed robbery, a home invasion, a gang shooting on my school campus, and I remember being a young girl and being brought to a cousin's funeral that had been murdered. She was shot. So when I hear people trying to turn this, which is a hearing on a stabilizing brace, into issues of gun violence and raising the topics and concerns of children and violence against children, I would like to remind people that in Washington, Chairman, if I could submit these to the record, in Washington,
So moved.
thank you, we are allowing for late-term abortion, and these babies were born alive. And my colleagues are not acknowledging that. So I just want to put that in perspective, that I don't believe that this is about protecting children. I believe that this is a political argument from people that have not gone through experiences and are seeking to use this platform to write legislation that's unconstitutional. So my following questions are for Ms. Sawyer. Do you believe that firearms and women that have firearms is apparently anti-woman?
Yeah, so this has been something that's been raised several times in this hearing, this idea that guns don't protect women. Of course they do. And I personally take offense at having my natural right to self-defense mansplained to me by members of this body who come to work every day protected by armed men with guns, very much believing that those guns are keeping them safe. And I tend to agree with them that those guns are, in fact, a large component in keeping them safe. I would also point to the defensive gun use database that we run at Heritage. So many of those instances involve women who otherwise would have been at a physical and strength disadvantage, who were able to use essentially self-defense at a distance to take on and defend their rights in ways they otherwise would not have been able to.
Thank you. My next question is for Mr. Bosco. Mr. Bosco, as I'm sure you may know, one of the leading causes of death in this country is obesity. Do you believe that we should place a ban on spoons?
I don't think spoons should be regulated, but if they are regulated, it should be Congress that does it and not the FDA.
Do you believe that somehow controlling someone's spoon access is going to prevent them from becoming obese?
I don't believe that will make any difference, no.
Well, I'm so glad you've clarified, because clearly in this instance, and actually, I'd like to follow up with one more question. For veterans that are disabled, would this law turn those veterans who have served their country, regardless of party affiliation, into criminals?
So this law will place burdens on every American who owns them, and it won't allow people to own this product without following through the process. So will veterans not be able to use the product? They will have to register their firearms and go through a burdensome process of doing it.
If a veteran is unaware that this has passed, would that turn that veteran into a criminal?
Well, anyone who doesn't read where you can find all the regulations is not going to know about it, and they will be subject to a 10-year felony offense. So, and I don't know how many people read promulgation of regulation on their spare time. I know that a lot of us do here, but I can certainly tell you that there's a lot of gun owners in the United States that don't know anything about this.
What the ATF has done with this administration, with the weaponization of this agency to take something that is basically done to aid people that are disabled and then make this about protecting children from a majority of members who have never experienced gun violence and or seen the direct outcome of what happens when bad people obtain guns, of which you will never be able to regulate, is not only an abuse of, I think, authority, but it's unconstitutional. I thank you for being here today, and Chairman, I yield my time.
Thank you.
Thôi anh hãy còn vấn vương làm gì? Ai thật lòng yêu ai đến bây giờ mình đã biết. Chuyện tình đôi ta anh hãy xem là huyền thoại. Anh đừng giận em, kìa dĩ vãng mùa thương vẫn đẹp như giấc mơ. Trên trời bao ánh sao tình ta bấy nhiêu kỷ niệm. Nào ngờ hôm nay định mệnh chia rẽ đôi ta, em biết làm sao hơn. Mùi tóc lan môi và thư tình em xin gửi lại anh. Với tất cả cuộc vui em cũng xin trả lại anh. Dù mãi em theo chồng, đời đời em vẫn nhớ mãi mối tình đầu tiên. Thôi anh hãy đi về, khóc chỉ làm buồn thêm. Trời đã khuya từ lâu, càng vắng đêm tà tư. Mai này thuyền hoa vui đón em về cùng bên khác. Đường tình đôi ta hai hướng đi buồn thật buồn. Anh hiểu dùm em, nào ước muốn giàu sang bởi tình duyên trái ngang. Em vì chữ hiếu nên đành câm nín cho đềm lòng. Chuyện tình đôi ta nghẹn ngào trong đắng muôn cay, thôi vĩnh biệt thiên thu. Đời đời em vẫn nhớ mãi mối tình đầu tiên. Thôi anh hãy đi về, khóc chỉ làm buồn thêm. Trời đã khuya từ lâu, càng vắng đêm tà tư. Mai này thuyền hoa vui đón em về cùng bên khác. Đường tình đôi ta hai hướng đi buồn thật buồn. Anh hiểu dùm em, nào ước muốn giàu sang bởi tình duyên trái ngang. Em vì chữ hiếu nên đành câm nín cho đềm lòng. Chuyện tình đôi ta nghẹn ngào trong đắng muôn cay, thôi vĩnh biệt thiên thu. Chuyện tình đôi ta nghẹn ngào trong đắng